Hello everybody, and today I'll be doing an introduction to the fire type in the Gym Leader Challenge format. So quick rundown of what the Gym Leader Challenge format is, or GLC for short. The main difference from standard are these deck list restrictions, including that you can only have one type of Pokemon per deck. You can only have one card with the same name per deck, excluding basic energy. Cards printed from black and white onward are legal, so it's a very wide and diverse card pool. And there are no Rulebox or Ace Spec cards, no Radiant Pokemon, no Prism Star Pokemon, and no multi-prize Pokemon like EX, Vs. And then I'll leave the ban list in the description below. So Fire has plenty of support Pokemon. It's got some pretty solid draw between Salazzle and Delphox. Salazzle is a stage 1 that lets you discard a fire energy from your hand to draw 3 cards, so it's good at building bigger hands. And then Delphox is a stage 2 that lets you draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So it's a bit harder to get out, and you don't need the fire energy like you do with Delphox or with Salazzle to draw up to 6 with Delphox. So you can kind of thin your hand down with cards like Ultra Ball. And then its attack is a lot more usable than Salazzle's. Both of the draw engines pair quite nicely with Magcargo with the Smooth Over ability, which just helps with a little bit of consistency by letting you search your deck for a card and put it on top of your deck, so you can draw into what you need for that turn. Now, Fire has a lot of energy manipulation and acceleration. Armor Rouge is a more recent one with the Fire Off ability, which lets you move basic fire energy from your benched Pokemon to your active Pokemon as often as you like. So this can help you make sure that nothing gets trapped in the active, or if you use energy accelerators to the bench and you need the active to have energy on it, you can move it off with the Armor Rouge. Team Magma's Camerupt can help you get some energy into play with the Burning Draft, which once during your turn you can search your discard pile for a fighting or fire energy and attach it to the Camerupt. So it gives a little bit of acceleration that you can then move off with the Armor Rouge. Charizard is a really good support Pokemon with the Burn Brightly ability, which makes it so that each basic fire energy attached to all of your Pokemon count as 2 fire energy instead of 1. So this makes it a lot easier to use the heavy-ended attacks that Fire has, and that Charizard itself has a 4 energy attack, which can be used for only 2 energy with its ability online. Now, Fire does have its own version of Rain Dance with this Emboar. Its Inferno Fandango ability reads just like every Rain Dance ability. As often as you like, you can attach a fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Infernape is a newer energy acceleration. Once during your turn, you can attach a basic fire energy, a basic fighting energy, or one of each from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. So it can allow for a bit more type diversity, and this pairs with the Camerupt quite nicely, as the Camerupt can accelerate that fire energy into, or the fighting energy from the discard pile back into play. So you can kind of manipulate the energy in that way. And then Fire has a lot of supporter-based energy acceleration, which means you won't be able to Boss's Orders or Guzma. So Fire can play all of these like gusting support Pokemon to get around that. There's 2 Ninetales. The first one with the 9 Temptations makes you discard 2 fire energy from your hand, and then you get to choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with their active. So that can be good to like get some energy in the discard pile and help you choose what you're taking out. There's this other Ninetales with a Bright Look ability, which is also a choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and move it to the active, but when you evolve the Ninetales. So you only get to do it once, but you get to do it for free as opposed to having to discard the 2 fires. And then this Pyroar has Flare Command, where if you discard a fire energy attached to the Pyroar, then you get to switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. So if you're playing cards that let you, like Magma Basin, you can attach an energy to the Pyroar and basically have a free Boss's Orders every turn. This Blaziken is also a bit of energy acceleration with its Fire Starter, which lets you just attach a fire energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. There's 2 Orcorios. The first one is good in like a control stall type deck, which it lets you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon, and it burns and confuses the new active Pokemon. So this lets you trap something that your opponent might not want in the active. And then this other Oricorio with the Ardent Dancing ability gives your evolution Pokemon a bit more longevity, with it allowing you to heal 20 damage off of your active evolution Pokemon once during a turn. So it can really help you keep your evolutions alive and maybe tank some hits. Victini is also cool with the Victory Star, which basically reads if you flip any coins for an attack, you can reflip the coins. So if you don't like the result the first time, you can try again. So this can increase your odds on completely whiffing attacks to actually doing some damage. And then this Moltres is just solid all around support with the Flare symbol, which just makes your basic fire Pokemon do 10 more damage, except Moltres itself. So its Fire Wing is going to be capped at that 110. But it can help your other, like, smaller fire Pokemon do some more damage. In terms of attackers, Fire is pretty set. It's got two cast forms. You play the cast form for the free retreat, and now that we have one without an ability, it lets people use Green's exploration a bit more freely, which I'll talk about on a later slide. This Volcanion is also pretty good in just most general fire decks, because for Flare Starter, if you go second and you use the attack, you get to search your deck for 3 basic fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. So that can lead to a really big power spike turn 1. Cinderace, with the Libero ability, when it moves from your bench to the active spot, you get 2 fire energy from your discard pile and attach it to it. So it's kind of just a move it from the bench to the active and you have an attacker set up. This Heat More with the Exciting Flame, if for 3 energy it does 90, which seems pretty bad, but if it has 3 extra energy, it can do 180 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And with the energy doubling Charizard, that's only 3 energy to do the 180 snipe. This Chi-Yu is a pretty solid attacker with the Mega Fire of Envy, where it's if any of your Pokemon are knocked out during your opponent's last turn, it does 90 more damage for a total of 140 for 2 fire, which is just pretty solid overall damage, especially on like a comeback turn. Entei is pretty good as well. The pressure ability makes your opponent's active Pokemon do 20 less damage while the Entei is in your active spot. So it can tank some hits, and then Blaze Ball can do a ton of damage because it does 20 more for each fire attached to it. So pair this with the energy doubling Charizard, and you can hit some pretty crazy numbers. Skeledirge, newer Pokemon, one of my favorite from Surging Sparks. It's got the Unaware ability, where you prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon done to the Skeledirge. So that can get around a lot of things like special conditions, damage counter placement, stuff like that. And then Torterito is 60 plus 20 for each bench Pokemon, which can get some pretty crazy numbers because even if just you have a full bench, that can do 160 damage, and that's if your opponent doesn't have a single other bench Pokemon. This new Armarouge, Crimson Blaster for 2 fire and a colorless. You discard all fire energy from it, and it does 180 damage to one of your opponent's to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you attach like reversal energy to it, you can do 180 snipe for 1 energy, which I think is pretty cool. This Barrage Torchic can be used with any of the technical machines that have come out recently, like Evolution to get your evolutions online, Turbo Energize, or even Crisis Punch to like close out games. So I just think it's a pretty cool card. This Blaziken has double type, which makes it a fighting and fire type. So it hits like a ton of weaknesses, and it can kind of just beat a lot of decks. This Gouging Fire also new card with the Blazing Charge, where if your opponent has 4 or fewer prize cards remaining, you do 170 damage, or 100 damage if they have 5 or 6 prize cards remaining. So this is basically you bring it out towards the later half of the game and just swing 170 damage for 3 energy. Grand Flame Arcanine is really good at doing some damage and accelerating energy into play, so you can keep your attackers rolling. Inferno Wings Moltres can do 90 damage if it has any damage counters on it for 1 energy, and that's pretty like efficient, low energy attack cost. Just kind of go in with the Moltres and take a prize. This Moltres and the Centiskorch They pair really nicely together. They both have attacks that discard your opponent's deck. The Moltres um, forces you to discard all the energy attached to it, and the Centiskorch gets to keep the energy, but they both um, help you get to your opponent closer to the deck out win condition for you, and they both pair really, really nicely with the energy doubling Charizard. Fire has quite a few trainer cards that are specific to it. Fire Crystal is an energy retrieval +1 for fire energy specifically, so it gets 3 fire energy from your discard pile. And fire really likes discarding energy, so having a way to get 3 back is really nicely. Fiery Torch can be some nice draw. Discard a fire energy from your hand when you play the card, and then draw 2. So it's a pretty nice bit of draw because fire doesn't have too much insane draw or consistency going on. Scorched Earth, Stadium card. You can discard a fire or fighting energy from your hand and draw 2 cards. Just a bit more consistency. Magma Basin is really good because it's energy acceleration on a stadium, and it pairs nicely with the Moltres from earlier because it puts 2 damage counters on the Pokemon that it accelerated to. So this can get your Moltres going in 1 turn. Giant Hearth, pretty good stadium overall. You discard a card from your hand to get 2 fire energy cards from your deck and put them into your hand. So this can help you keep consistent energy in your hand to do your other things like Salazzle. Mela, if one of your Pokemon was knocked out, you can use Mela to attach a basic fire energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and then draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So if you can thin your hand down before you Mela, you can get pretty nice draws off of it. Blacksmith is pretty good. You just straight up attach 2 energy cards from your discard pile to one of your fire Pokemon. And that's good because, as you see the rest of here, fire really wants to be discarding energy with its supports, and just having a way to attach from the discard is pretty crazy. Kindler, you can Kindler. You can use this card if you discard a fire energy from your hand, and then you look at the top 7 and keep 2. And again, fire doesn't have too much crazy draw support, so having a way to get 2 cards out of the top 7 and put an energy in the discard pile is pretty good. Welder is one of the best energy accelerations in the game, in my opinion, where you attach up to 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and then you draw 3 cards. So you get energy acceleration and some insane draw. Now, moving on to the deck lists. This deck is called Extreme Speed because it focuses on getting out the Charizard as soon as possible, and then using your basic attackers to apply a lot of pressure and take early knockouts and win the game early from there. Bright Flame relies on the Libero Cinderace and the Fire Off Armarouge to use the Cinderace to accelerate energy to itself, and then you move the Cinderace back to the bench and you use Armarouge's Fire Off ability to attach energy that you put on the Cinderace to your other fire Pokemon, and you can use the camera up from earlier to accelerate even more energy into play. This is Fire Mill, which mill means to discard cards from your opponent's deck. So this focuses on reducing your opponent's deck to 0 cards. And this is the Green's Exploration I mentioned earlier, where you can only play it if you have no Pokemon with any abilities in play. And then you search your deck for 2 trainer cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So this is why the new cast form without an ability is big, because it provides free retreat and the ability to still use greens. This is one of my favorite lists to have recently come out. It's called Swamp Fire, and it just revolves around making your Skeledirge as big as possible, and just kind of like leave it up there for your opponent to deal with, and if they can't, the Skeledirge is guaranteed going to take multiple prizes. Skeledirge has 180 HP base, and that can go up to 280 with the Luxurious Cape, which does make it give up an extra prize. But when it has 280 health, it's probably going to be taking more than 1 prize. so it kind of evens itself out there. And then you have uh, this special fire energy, which gives the fire Pokemon it's attached to plus 20 HP. So you can get your Skeletor up to 300 HP. And then you have plenty of healing cards like Mallow and Lana to heal 120 damage from it. And you kind of just leave a massive Skeledirge in the active for your opponent to try and deal with. Links in the description. All the deck lists that I went through in this video will be down there. The official Gym Leader Challenge website will be down there, along with the ban list, and then the Cardboard Warriors website I will leave that down there. It's a very good place to go and look at deck lists for each individual type, and it also functions as a deck builder, so you can try and make your own decks. I do also recommend checking out the Tricky Jim Discord. He was the creator of this format, and there is a very colorful and vibrant Gym Leader Challenge community over there. They will be happy to answer any more questions you may have. Thanks. Like, comment, subscribe, support me, and I should be back with another one soon.